So why is the government keeping interest rates so high, right? Let's talk about something that's driving everybody insane. I'm in the mortgage business. What do you think the biggest question I get is, Kenny, when are interest rates going to get down? Are we ever going to get back to those good old days where they're 3%, 2%? Well, folks, obviously that was a crazy time. They were being pushed down because the government was pushing them down with your own tax dollar money. But here's one of the big things that most people are not talking about is interest rates are struggling to come down, not just because the Federal Reserve, but also because the government's spending. We are spending trillions and trillions of dollars. As you guys know, we only take $5 trillion in as a country and we spend $7. We are $37 trillion in debt, and the interest payments that we make on that, we actually borrow. So whether it's defense, infrastructure, entitlements, you name it, all that spending has to get paid by some way, somehow. And look, I get it. Government spending is nothing new. Overspending is nothing new. It's just politicized. It doesn't matter if you're on the right, the middle, the left. It's ridiculous. And honestly, it really doesn't matter, because if you sit any one of these politicians down and you actually put a gun to their head and said, is our spending out of control? Do we need to cut spending? Let's be honest. They would tell you, yes, it's out of control. And then they would also tell you that if we don't do something now quickly, we'll never get mortgage rates lower. And guess what else? We're gonna have a serious problem, because once I break down this video of how this stuff all works, you will be shocked that they're not paying attention to this stuff more, and that if we don't correct our problem today, in 10 years, we might have the biggest problem ever, and our interest rates could be sky high and out of control, and you're gonna figure out why. So here's the deal. You know, the government's been spending more money than we have. We've been getting into massive debts. When the pandemic hit, we just took the volume and went and basically put another $9 trillion on top of what we had it before in 2019. So our deficit is out of control. Our spending is out of control. It's all out of control. There's fraud, waste, abuse. We have to stop the bleeding. That's why you're seeing Doge. That's why you're seeing people uprise, the American people, saying this is out of control. And what you don't realize, that out of control spending is causing mortgages to remain higher. And it's going to be much, much more difficult if we do not hit the reset button, if we not go through the pain now of cutting spending and deficits. Because in this video coming up next, I'm going to go through exactly how the government has to get this money, how they print the money, and ultimately who buys this debt and why interest rates are staying elevated to attract those buyers. Okay, so the US government funds itself in 3 ways. Number 1 is through taxes. Number 2 is through borrowing. And number 3, oh yeah, we kind of just print the money. Kind of like we think it's monopoly money. It just never runs out, right? But every time we print money, borrow money, we have to issue things called treasuries or bonds. So if you don't know what the heck that means and I just lost you, let me break it down for you quickly. Let's say you're starting a business, okay? And you go to the Bank of Moab, mom and dad, and you say, Mom and Dad, I want to borrow $100,000. And they said, sure, son, here you go. Here's $100,000, but you're going to have to pay us an interest rate of 3%. You're like, great, sounds good, right? So that's what we do. We have to go borrow money as a country. We go out and we say, who will buy $1 trillion of these treasuries? Japan, China, great. And they buy it. And we go, thank you. And that's what we take our money and we spend it and we make this thing go round and round and round. So we have all this stuff, right? Great. But here's where we have more problems. The more debt you get, the higher interest rates that you're going to ultimately need. So let me explain. You go back to mom and dad and you say, Mom and Dad, I know I borrowed $100,000, but I actually need to borrow $100,000 more because my business is growing and I need it. They're going to go, well, son, you know, we gave you 3%, but this is getting a little bit uncomfortable for us. Okay, we'll give you that $100,000, but I'm going to have to take it out of this account and I'm earning 8%. So you're going to have to pay me 8%. Sure, no problem, Mom and Dad. Great. Cool. Third thing, you come back to mom and dad. The third time you say, Mom and Dad, I need 300. They're like, son, I mean, what is going on here? This is getting ridiculous. Like, you just constantly come borrowing, and you're paying your interest. But still, if you want me to get that money, this is becoming a little bit more and more risky. And I'm not sure if I really want to invest in you. So if you want me to invest in you, you're going to have to do it at 10%. Great, Mom. I'll do it at 10%. Well, folks, that is what we're doing here at the federal government. We go out, we need money, and we have to now, because we're so much in debt, we're borrowing so much money, and these other countries aren't dumb. We have to entice them. And a way to entice them to buy our debt is we have to keep interest rates going higher and higher to attract them to buy our treasuries. Making sense? Great. Let's keep going. Here's where we really need to get down to the nuts and bolts. So take 2025, the election that just got won. I'm not trying to make this political, folks. If you watch my channel, if you watch me, I care about one thing and one thing only. It's the data. It's the facts. And right now, let's go to the facts. We spend every 90 days, I think we spend $1 trillion or something like that. It is out of control. Okay? Okay? So it's, I think every day we spend $10 billion. It's something ridiculous. We are $37 trillion in debt. Every year that goes by, we keep racking up that debt. We only take in $5 trillion. Our spending is out of control. We are borrowing money to pay for all these programs. We're borrowing money to pay for the interest. So it's this cycle. So we have to continue to keep going back to mom and dad. Like I told you, we need another 100 and another 100. But here's the scary thing. Now we're $300,000 in debt to mom and dad. Let's say we're 400. Now we got to go over to our uncle and say, hey, uncle, can I borrow $100,000 just to make the debt payments? Do you see how now you're borrowing to rob Paul to pay Peter? It's getting out of control. That's what we're doing here at the federal government. So in order to do that, you can keep doing that, but it doesn't look good. And so that means you're basically fighting for that money to go. We have to fight to take that money and we got to put it out there and we got to get higher interest rates, right? So how do we get interest rates down and how do we cut spending and why it matters? So number one, if we didn't have to sell as many bonds and raise treasuries, guess what? We don't need them as much. So if you're a seller of treasuries and you don't need it, right? And you're not so desperate, guess what? You could go out to the market and actually say, hey, this person's more stable. Like just remember when you got the first 100,000 from your mom and they gave you at 3% because they're like, hey, no problem. You haven't really asked for it. It seems like there's no risk. Cool. Let's give it to you. You got it at 3%. Did you notice when you asked them for the third or fourth time, they want 10, 12, 13%? Well, guess what, folks? At this point with treasuries, you could issue treasuries and people buy them for 2%, 2.5%. Now they want 4.5% treasuries or 5% treasuries, right? And that's the thing is we have to jack the rates to entice buyers. So if we ask for less debt, if we were managing our debt better, if we weren't so high in debt, guess what? We'd get better interest rates across the board. Number two, that would ease the treasury and bond market. So the bond market where the rates keep higher, they're freaked out now. The spending's out of control, the debt level's out of control, and they're worried. So they're like, we got to keep these up high. I mean, it doesn't make them feel good. So your mom and dad lending you money, let's say they're the bond market, they're the treasury market. So the more money you keep asking for, the more insecure, the more they start getting more and more cautious. Like, is this thing going to implode on me? Am I going to lose all my money that I invested in my son? Think about it, right? That's the way the bond market, the treasury market is feeling right now. The other thing is if we got our debt down and we're not spending out of control, when the Federal Reserve comes out and they need to cut rates and things like that, they can do more. They can do it not out of fear, not out of scare. And they can do that without spiking inflation and things like that because our debt levels are out of control. What can we do to escape this cycle? You know and I know. We need to cut deficits. We need to cut spending. We need to cut our deficit. We need to cut this massive freaking debt we're in. But spending cuts, it's a political issue, right? Let's be honest. Entitlement reform, touching Social Security, Medicare, oh my gosh, it's even tougher. Boosting tax revenue is really, really, really hard. So the bottom line is at this pace we're going, if we don't make major cuts, as you can see, we're going to be having a tougher time to get people to buy our debt because it's going to make less and less sense for them too. So if that's the case, imagine if we get 50 trillion in debt and we can't, and everybody knows we're suffering and we don't have a way out of this. They're going to want 7-8% probably interest on their money. And that's where our rates would go to if we don't get this deficit under control. So when it comes to mortgage rates and you want to know where they come down, these are the things that you need to focus on because this is what's important to all of us, whether it's mortgage rates for your car, your business, your HELOC, investment property, your primary property. We got to look at the government spending and national debt. We got to look at the treasury bonds to see what yield they're having to, where they're at, having to pay. What's the Federal Reserve policy? What are they saying? What are they thinking? So the next time you see that $1 trillion bill say, we need to spend more of this and that. Now, hopefully after watching this video, you'll go, wait a second here. This is getting worse and worse for us. How are we going to get out of this hole? So things like, hey, cutting the deficit or going in the Department of Doge and finding all the waste and stuff we don't need to spend. That's a great thing, folks. We need to get rid of this money. We don't have it. We're borrowing the money to help people out. Imagine you borrowing money to go help your friend fix a car, borrowing money to help your friend do this. You're paying interest on it, but it's a lose-lose. And the last thing I'll say is we're going to have to do something dramatic eventually. Either we're going to have to cut spending so hard it's going to be painful, or the dramatic thing would be is something like, hey, is there a way we can use our United States? Can we invest back in ourselves and make more money and get more tax dollars? Can we invest our money more wisely, right? And get a better return to help pay down debt? Could we actually sell those $5 million gold visas and get 5 million people to do that and pay and get $25 trillion to pay down their debt. At the end of the day, we're going to have to do something. If we don't do dramatic now, it's going to be a crisis depression in about 10 years. So please share this video with somebody. But hey, if you want to get mortgage rates down, now you know what to pay attention to. Now you know it matters. And if we're fighting for those treasuries every single day and we're having to keep those rates high to get people to invest in our country and buy those treasuries, it's going to be much, much challenging to get those interest rates down, and for now and in the future. So thanks for watching. Like, subscribe. I'd love to hear your comments below. What do you think about this? What do you think we can do as a country to get down the deficit? Love to hear your thoughts. And also love to see some lower interest rates here in the near future to help us all.